This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by Newegg. Whether you're looking to buy parts to build a new computer or fix an old one or bring new life to an existing laptop or desktop, Newegg has all of the parts to make that possible, from power supplies and cases to hard drives, monitors, motherboards, processors, all of that. And they oftentimes run really great deals, including daily deals. We've got some graphics cards on special right now, and Assassin's Creed Origin looks like it's coming as a deal with a video card. You can find those deals and a whole lot more from Newegg by going to pilchpoint.live/Newegg. So, in addition to PC components, you can also sometimes find other stuff, robot components and things like that on Newegg, which I know Avram has been really excited about lately.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I didn't have a child, I would probably still really enjoy building robots and things like that. I mean, it's fun for everybody. But for those parents in the audience, I just want to offer a little bit of advice. My son is 6, and since he was very young, much younger than this, we've been doing all kinds of projects together. And certainly the last couple of years that we've been doing robot projects together, he's gotten really pretty good at it, to the point where he and I are doing like Arduino projects together, doing circuits together that do like light sensors and things like that. It's pretty cool to be able to do that kind of thing with your child. It's cool for you, and it's good for them to learn. So some of the things that I've learned, I wrote an article about this that's on tomshardware.com right now, there's a few things to keep in mind when trying to sort of share your love of technology with your kids and help turn them into, young techies. The first and most important piece of advice is don't underestimate. You might think that something is above your kid's head and like, oh man, I can't do this project with them, or I got to do everything for them, or or very importantly, when you're talking about it, you think you got to dumb it down. Don't do that. I always, whatever my son asks me about tech stuff, I will tell him straight up what I'm doing, and even if he doesn't get it right away, it's surprising how much he does later seem to get. Like when he was 4 years old, we were talking about, he couldn't get an app on his tablet and on his Fire tablet because it wasn't in the Amazon store at that time. And so I tried to sideload it, and I had to explain what sideloading was to him. And for the next few weeks, every time he'd run into somebody who had a phone, he'd be like, "Do you have the Google store?" He'd say yes. He's like, "Okay, well, you should download this app. But if you don't have the Google store, you could always sideload it." Now he knows all about like the difference between DC motors and servo motors and stepper motors, and about negative and positive wires and things like that. So even if there's stuff like that that's like, over his head at the time, I always tell him, yeah, this is what we're doing. And it's surprising how much later he'll incorporate into something he says to really show you he actually knows what he was talking about. One thing that I do notice a lot with him, and I think it's true with other kids too, is always better to work on a physical project that has some type of a physical element, like a robot or a circuit kit or something like that, or even a light box that lights up or something, than to just do something that only lives on the screen. For example, there's a lot of programming apps out there to teach kids how to program, but they don't affect a real device, a real moving robot or something. anytime you can get something where the kids can actually see the result of what they're doing in the real world, like, oh, I programmed this and now the robot does this, I think that's a lot more effective and appealing to them. You might also be surprised to know that kids can learn to program and learn a lot of these concepts even before they can learn to read. Um, Lego Boost is one of the best systems for this because it has an app, a programming app, where the entire interface is icons and there's not one word in it. But even if the app has words in it, it's amazing how your kid can be a really good functional illiterate. Like my son, he can navigate menus and figure out what things program blocks mean from having used them before, seeing someone else use them, even if he doesn't know how to read the word that's on them. As a if you're trying to do something that's a little more fun and teach your kids something that you would enjoy, using standard parts is always better than proprietary ones. I mean, there's a lot of cool robot kits out there that just work within themselves. Like he really likes the Droid Inventor kit from PLUGHITZ, but and that's great. But PLUGHITZ stuff is not compatible with Legos or a lot of other stuff that you might have or want to use. It's nice unto itself, but what's really cool is when you can get something that is a standard, like Arduino or Raspberry Pi or Legos, which are standard not for tech but for building things, and things that are compatible like that, and you can combine them so that, first of all, if you teach your kids something like Arduino or Raspberry Pi, that's adult stuff, so you're teaching them an adult skill. And second of all, and hopefully teaching yourself if you don't know everything about them, and then you're really doing something that's transferable, so you can get more and more and more sets that build on that level of knowledge. The last thing I want to point out is, if you're getting something that's app enabled, and most things are in some way, if you're buying a robot kit or something, keep in mind what operating systems it works on. A lot of kids have the Amazon Fire tablets, which are great. They're the leading kids tablets, and in my opinion are the best kids tablets because they have great parental controls and great content and are indestructible. But a lot of companies that make robot kits don't make apps, that don't put the apps in the Fire store and the Amazon store, and therefore you can't use their tablet for it. So that's something to be wary of. As you're programming. Of course, other things that are a little bit more adult, you may really want or need a PC. I mean, you can attempt to program Arduino on a Android device, but it doesn't really. I don't think it really works very well. You can attempt to program a Raspberry Pi thing, I guess, remotely, but there's things that you're gonna need, keyboard and mouse to do, depending on what the project is. So those are my quick tips. If anyone wants to learn more, check out my article on tomshardware.com about how to tips to turn your kid into a code wielding robot builder. And good luck, everybody.
I can attest to the interacting with physical things, doing all the robotics stuff with first, being able to do something and then see it have an impact in reality really is special. It's, when it's all virtual, it's not quite the same. You don't get that ooh that you get when you see a physical thing move or whatever.
I'm much older than 6 years old, and I still appreciate the benefit of I programmed this thing on the Arduino board and it made a light up or a motor move. Like, wow, that really did something.
Absolutely. We reviewed a thing a couple years ago now, M Cookie, which was Arduino based, but all like magnetic connectors for the primary pieces, which was a really cool product. But it was a group of, I think the youngest person in the room when we were doing it was 15, and then the oldest was in their 40s, and all of us, honest to God, all we did was got a button on our phone to change the color of a light on the thing. That was literally all that all that it did, and it took a group of us a little while to get it going, and we were all so excited when it happened. We couldn't, we're all like, woohoo. So yeah, even well older than 6 can get really excited just seeing a light up or something like that. So
yeah, I mean, I like those things that snap together like that for you. They're a good step, but I'm personally preferring to try and figure out what we can do with more sort of standardized stuff like a breadboard or figuring out how to solder stuff onto a PCB or whatever, because that's what the big people use.
Right.
That's what real makers use. You're not going to have a magnetic thing when you go and try and build your own robot or whatever. So, my son has learned all about breadboards now.
That's awesome.
Although he still gets a little confused about the difference between the rows and the columns on the breadboard and where you have to plug what into what. So I got to on him very closely, but yeah. So I think it's cool. Like today, he and I were talking about a proto shield for our Arduino. He's like, yeah. So we had the proto shield on that one, and so anyway.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Avram, as always, I always appreciate these topics, especially when we talk about teaching with technology. So, thank you for that. You said there's an article on Tom's Hardware?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. When I clean out this area behind me, which I really need to do, I have to start soldering something because my son made a request. He was like, when are you going to solder this? Like, we have another kit that we got called the Maker Buino, which is a device you have to solder and do all kinds of things to build. It's Arduino based, but the board is custom, and it's a little handheld game system that you build yourself, basically. And he's like, you got to make the Maker Buino. I said, well, I have to solder it, and I have to clear some space near the window because I don't want the fumes to get anywhere. And he's like, well, clean up, do it. You got to do it. Oh. He wants me to start soldering now.
Yeah, I think we knew that it was going to get there at some point.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I have to admit, in all honesty, I'm learning as much as he is, because I'm not a super expert at all of these things, which is why it's so fun for me. He learns something and I learn something else. So it's fun for the whole family, is what I'm saying.
It sure is. Well, thanks for talking about this, and everybody should go check out what Avram has on tomshardware.com.